Welcome, Splinterlands fans. It's time for another strategy video. Today we are going to look at not a card, but an ability that is brand new for Rebellion, and that is Lookout. Lookout is absolutely changing the meta, so we're gonna go through a bunch of battles with Lookout.
Aether, decentralized cloud infrastructure for gaming and AI.
All right, so Lookout's going to do a couple of things. First off, it is going to cut ambush damage in half. Second, it is going to decrease the sneak, snipe, or opportunity damage to adjacent cards. And all of these damage reductions are going to be applied before anything like shield, void, force field, any of those other things are applied. So yes, it can decrease damage down to 0 even. So we've got a bunch of battles we're going to go through. Most of these are going to be with the second part of that, the sneak, the snipe, those types of attacks. But I do have one right here that is against an ambush team. So we're gonna look at how this impacts the ambush damage. So we see up here we've got a new ambush summoner, and look what's going to happen to this Jared Scar damage up here. 2. Jared Scar only hits for 2. Oh, and then that you see that we had 0 damage. 0 damage from that second magic attack. That should have been 4 damage and 1 damage for a total of 5 damage to start the battle. It was decreased to 2. So we saved 3 damage there, just because we had a Lookout card anywhere on the battlefield. It does not have to be adjacent, as we saw there. It's going to cut all ambush damage in half, and in this battle, that ends up being a key 3 damage, as we'll see here in a second. And this is one of the reasons I feel like this part of it is kind of is going a little bit under the radar right now. There is certainly a lot of people that think this new Dragon Summoner is overpowered with that ambush ability, and this is one of the reasons I think that it's not, because you can counter it with a single card. You put a Lookout card out there, and it just really cuts that damage in half. By the way, we saw Smith down there get to 2 damage. He would have, if we didn't have that an ambush, if we didn't have this Lookout ability on this card, Smith is done. Jared Scar then one-shots every other card down here, gaining more speed, gaining more health to kind of offset some of that poison damage. If it was not for that Lookout, we would have lost this battle. Instead, able to barely pick up a win. This is a battle you may have seen before here, where that poison comes in just clutch. But that Lookout from the very beginning was a difference maker. Right now, there's not a lot of cards that we're not really seeing a lot of that ambush summoner, just because a lot of people don't have Rebellion yet. I think as more and more Rebellion cards get out there, as more people play that summoner, that Lookout's going to be used for that reason quite a bit. But right now, I think we're seeing Lookout used in many other situations. So in order to reduce snipe, sneak, or opportunity damage, and this becomes a key strategy in rule sets like this, where we've got target practice. All ranged and magic attack monsters have the snipe ability. So I've once again used our promo card here, Smith. You don't have to use him, but he's a very nice card. Put him in the snipe spot, added a Lookout there. You're just not going to do much damage from them. Then we already had the thorns in this rule set, so we weren't expecting to see a lot of melee attack, and this just really negates so much of that damage. And one thing to keep in mind, so like for example, that card up there that just died as I got to talking about it, it had Scattershot. It was not actually hitting the snipe position, but it doesn't matter. That card technically still has snipe. All magic and range cards in this rule set are going to have their damage reduced if they're adjacent to a Lookout card, even if they're not hitting the snipe spot. If you have a magic card that's up front hitting the first card, but we have a Lookout card behind it, it's still going to have that damage reduced. If that Scattershot had come over here and hit an adjacent card, hit Mycelia when we had our Lookout there, it would still reduce that damage. It does not matter if the snipe is actually being applied. Same with opportunity, same with sneak. It doesn't matter if that ability is actually being used. If the card has that ability, it is going to, that damage can be reduced, and that allows us to get a win here. We've got a bunch more battles to look at, so let's not wait till the end of it. Let's go ahead and move along. Take a look at a different lookout card here. This has definitely been one of my favorites in this sniper rule set, because we have a reach card with lookout. That is a perfect spot to defend against snipe, because a lot of times so you can put the melee card in the second spot, and then a lot of times you're going to have a magic or range card right behind that. So this is a great snipe defense, whether you're just expecting your opponent to run it, or whether you've got a snipe rule set. And honestly, it's just a solid card overall in general. But once again, sticking Smith back there as our tank to absorb that snipe damage works very, very well. If these battles look familiar to you all, it's because I've pulled them from a video I've already done with the summoner. I like my new life summoner here, but this can't do any damage. You see 0. I told you guys it can be reduced to 0. They literally could not do any damage to Smith till they get back up front and can go around him. Cora's unbeatable, right? Cora with a couple martyrs? Not so much. Look at all that damage. We got 12 damage there. That's going to be enough to get through Cora. Last hit. Earthquake. We'll seal it off. That was a win. Let's move on. Let's take a look at another one. Oh, are you noticing a trend here? I like to use Smith a lot. I haven't done my video on this promo card, Grimbard Smith, but it is absolutely one of the best cards in the game. But again, you don't have to have him back there. Any card back there. This lookout, again, here we have a sneak rule set. We had the thorns, so I wasn't sure how much we were going to use sneak. Our new summoner pairs nicely here, where you can get some surprise melee damage, even though you've got thorns here with that reflection shield. But I was able to defend against that sneak with another lookout card. Just solid overall cards. This is not a huge 5 mana. You still get 3 attack out of that, so it's still a solid card. I feel like in terms of when they design these cards, they assign points to these abilities and these different stats, and they try to keep the points relatively similar to balance the card. I feel like Lookout doesn't have enough points, because I really like a lot of these Lookout cards, and a lot of these Lookout cards are good even without the Lookout, so you don't have to worry about overplaying. Okay, if you put him in the back as a sneak defense, but then your opponent doesn't run sneak, you still got, we still have 3 magic damage back there. That's still a very solid card. Oh, it's got that life leech, gaining all that health, got flying. It's a good card even without it, so you don't even have to sacrifice anything to stick that card back there. Oh, speaking of one of those cards that you don't really have to sacrifice much to stick back there, this is one of my favorite cards in Rebellion. This Soothsayer has a cleanse and a heal, which is just a great combo. A tank heal is always good, and then you put a cleanse in front of it. Now there's no way to block that heal other than the rule set that doesn't allow for the healing. But you can't land affliction because you're just going to cleanse it, and the cleanse happens before the heal. It's got the spell, which is a solid ability, and then has that lookout, so you can stick it in the... Usually I'm sticking in that 5th spot towards the back line. This was actually a battle. I was not playing this card for lookout. This is when you've got the armored up, you have the equalizer here. I definitely was not anticipating a sneak team. I absolutely did not expect sneak. I put this card in here for the cleanse heal, not for the lookout to defend against the sneak damage. But you see, Gobson, I mean, everybody says Gobson's OP, right? Gobson the only dude cuts 4 damages down to 2. Really took Gobson out of that. I don't think they would have won anyways. Gobson with all that health wasn't going to get enough to go off. But this is just a solid card overall with that cleanse heal. I think it's one of the best cards in Rebellion. Convincing win there. All right, let's go take a look. I think we've got one more here before we get into the panda strategy. So once again, okay, here's another one. We saw up close and personal. Everybody has sneak. You know sneak is coming. No sneak is coming. Put Palace back there. Put a shield back there. Dealing 1 damage. We've got Jared Scar over here. This is the second time we've been able to use a lookout to kind of neutralize Jared Scar. Although the math can be kind of funny here, because Jared Scar is going to do 3 damage. So the way the math works, as we kind of go through this here for a second, it's going to reduce his attack to 6, and then that 6 gets reduced in half by the shield to 3. So I wish we had an even number of attack here that we could show, because sometimes it doesn't actually make that big of a difference. If Jared Scar had 6 attack, let's say he had 6 instead of 7, it would reduce it to 5, but then the shield damage gets rounded up, with the exception of 1. I've never really understood why that one gets rounded down, but all of the others get rounded up. But if he had 6 and it was reduced to 5 damage with lookout, the shield would still do 3 damage. So that's kind of how the math is. I know I've seen a lot of questions about that's confusing. Like, why is he doing the same amount of damage that he would normally do? The lookout isn't working. It has to do with how cards get rounded. So this is the long battle, but it ended up being a win. But I showed a bunch of strategies without using Red Panda. But Red Panda is definitely one of my favorites here, and I love using this in these rule sets, especially the opportunity rule set, because on sneak, it's only the melee cards that get that, right? So it doesn't apply to the ranged or the magic. In this one, it's only the magic cards that get it. It doesn't apply to any melee cards unless they are dual attack. Now in this case, wands out, we can only use magic cards. So I knew that, okay, they were gonna have to attack Ashanis, put a card with a lot of health, some speed that could even dodge, has the void, and then we put the cleanse, the heal, the lookout. Like, they can't do any damage. Got the scatter shot, which can be a good counter to this, by the way. In this case, there was just too much health on the back line. But scatter shot can be a counter to some of these lineups, but you just can't do any damage. You're decreasing the damage even further. We've got silence. Just can't touch it. Dr. Blight can't land that affliction because we've just got a cleanse heal down there anyways. Kitty with these lookout cards and a big tank up front is just, Kitty. Red Panda is just so good in some of these rule sets. Again, we're gonna go ahead and skip this. Let's see if we can. Here's the opportunity battle. Because with Red Panda, they all have to attack that frontline card. They all have opportunity. So every type of attack, every card has opportunity. All of the damages are going to be decreased by 1 with Palace there. So I put a massive tank up there. Again, we've got another cleanse heal, a heal. We've got a repair. It's just very, very hard to get through that tank. You need to bring a ton of damage. I mentioned scatter shot. Scatter shot a lot of times can be a very good counter here to actually go around. But one of the things that's tough is we have a triage. And you've got a triage on this tank as well. So even if they had brought scatter shot, we can still heal up a little bit in that back line. But there's a decent amount of damage. Mantaroth is a very, very tough card. They've got 55 mana to bring attackers with, and they're not going anywhere. This is a sustainable team that can heal up pretty much forever. Beefing up Korra, beefing up Mantaroth, it's not going to matter. This team is just that good. All right, let's go ahead and move to, we've got one more battle. We've got to get another one of our lookout cards in. Jurek, Mystic. It's the same way. So we had snipe, no range. Go through my own ambush in there. sorry, no melee. Everyone has snipe. So every single card out here is going to have that snipe ability. That can be reduced using Mystic. Good card with Void, shields. We got a repair, immunity. You guys know how good Smith is by now. Is that card OP? Is that card too powerful? It's a fairly rare card. It's an expensive card. But again, this strategy can be used even without this. Any sort of tank, whatever your best tank is, put it there, and you can utilize this strategy. And it's just a sustain team. Smith's already an extremely good tank. You decrease all the damage by 1 before it even gets to him. Throw in a heal. It's tough. It is tough, and I made sure the reason I put this scatter shot in there was in case they ran a similar team. They ran a similar team themselves. Now I don't know if that one scatter shot would have been enough anyways, but that was my thought. We see a lot of draws in these rule sets, especially at the higher leagues, because there's in some of these rule sets, there's just literally nothing you can do to get through this. So both players run it. It ends up being a draw, or sometimes it'll be whoever runs a slightly better variation of it maybe can pick up a win. But you're starting to see a lot of draws at higher leagues because some of these sustain teams. It's another way to mitigate damage. And teams just can't get through it. It is very, very tough. So Lookout has been a huge meta changer, and I think we're gonna start to see more and more of it as people realize that you get these abilities. It's almost essential to throw a Lookout card in there. Some of them, this one's a 4-mana card, and you don't have to spend a lot of mana to get this. He doesn't necessarily have a lot of attack. Still got some speed, health, void. Easy card to fit in to your lineup, and there's several of them. So if you're not using Lookout cards, make sure you make that change. Go start playing those Lookout cards, because this is very, very powerful, and they absolutely have a strong place in the meta. What's your guys' favorite? What's your favorite Lookout card? How have you used? Have you found other ways to use this? Let me know down. I love when you guys list your battles down below. I love to take a look at them. I'll see you guys when we've got a bunch of videos already planned that you're gonna see a bunch of content coming this weekend. We've got a bunch more strategies to go through, and we're gonna be playing some new games as well. So I know you guys like Splinterlands, but if you want to check out some new games, make sure you join me for the live streams. We're doing a bunch of first look live streams here on YouTube, not on Twitch, but I do still just stream some on Twitch. But my first look have been here on YouTube, so make sure you turn those notifications on so you don't miss those streams. I'll see you there.